Have you ever thought a common vaccine you might have already gotten could actually help protect your brain? It sounds a bit like science fiction, right? We're always hearing about diet, exercise, and brain games to keep our minds sharp as we age. But what if one of the most powerful tools against dementia was something we've had for years? In today's video, we're diving deep into some fascinating new research that connects a very familiar vaccine to a significantly lower risk of developing dementia. The results are pretty staggering. That's not the vaccine you might be thinking of. Stick around because you're going to want to. Hear this. We're breaking down the science, what it means for you, and what the future might hold. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's on a lot of our minds, brain health, specifically dementia. But we're going to approach it from an angle you might not expect. We often think about dementia in terms of genetics, lifestyle, or even diet. But what if I told you that something as common as an infection could play a significant role? And more importantly, what if a simple, widely available vaccine could help protect your brain? Stick around, because the connections we're about to explore are truly fascinating. Let us start with the basics. Why should we even care about infections when we're talking about our brains? Well, our brains are incredibly well protected. They're surrounded by something called the blood-brain barrier, which is like a super exclusive nightclub bouncer. Its job is to keep harmful substances, pathogens, and toxins out of our central nervous system. It's a fantastic defense mechanism. But it's not invincible. When you get an infection, say the flu, pneumonia, or even something like a urinary tract infection, your body's immune system kicks into high gear. It releases a flood of inflammatory molecules called cytokines to fight off the invaders. This is a good thing. It's how we heal. The problem is, this intense inflammatory response doesn't always stay localized. It can become systemic, meaning it spreads throughout your entire body. Now think back to that bouncer. The blood-brain barrier, a massive, body-wide inflammatory storm, can actually weaken this barrier, making it more permeable or leaky. It's like the bouncer gets overwhelmed, and suddenly, some unwanted guests can slip past the velvet rope. These guests can include those inflammatory cytokines themselves, and sometimes even the pathogens we're trying to fight, once inside the brain. This inflammation can cause a lot of trouble. It creates a state known as neuroinflammation. Imagine a slow, smoldering fire inside your brain tissue. This chronic inflammation can damage neurons, disrupt the communication pathways between them, and even trigger the buildup of harmful proteins, like amyloid and tau, the very proteins that are the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. So a single, severe infection, especially one that requires hospitalization, can deliver a significant inflammatory jolt to the brain. But it's not just about one big event. Scientists are also looking at the cumulative effect of repeated minor infections over a lifetime. Each time you get sick, your immune system fires up. Over decades, this repeated activation can contribute to that low-grade, chronic neuroinflammation, slowly and silently increasing the wear and tear on your brain. This is why researchers are getting so excited about the link between infections and dementia. Risk, it's a direct, biological pathway. An infection happens somewhere in your body, your immune system responds with inflammation. That inflammation potentially breaches the blood-brain barrier, and this leads to neuroinflammation, which is a key driver of neurodegenerative diseases like dementia. It's a powerful idea because it shifts our perspective. It suggests that protecting our brains isn't just about brain-specific activities. It's also about maintaining our overall health and, crucially, preventing infections in the first place. This brings us to the really exciting part of our discussion. If infections can increase our risk, does that mean preventing them can lower it? That's exactly where we're headed next. We'll be talking about a specific, common vaccine that studies are showing might have a surprisingly protective effect on your long-term brain health. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. All right, let's dive right into the science and see what the studies are actually showing. It's one thing to hear a headline, but it's another to understand the data behind it. So, what's the connection between a simple shingles vaccine and a lower risk of dementia? Well, researchers have been digging into this for a while, and the results are pretty compelling. One of the largest studies on this topic came out of Wales. researchers that analyzed the electronic health records of nearly 300,000 people. They specifically looked at individuals who were eligible for the shingles vaccine and compared those who got it with those who didn't. The findings were striking. Over a 7-year follow-up period, the group that received the Zostavax vaccine, which was the one used at the time, had a nearly 30% lower risk of developing dementia. 30%. That's a significant number, and it definitely got the scientific community's attention. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's one study. What else is there? Great question. Another major study from the United States, this one published in the journal BMJ Open, looked at a massive data set of over 2 million people. This study was a bit different because it was a case control study. They identified people with a new dementia diagnosis and then looked back at their vaccination history, comparing it to a control group of people without dementia. Again, the results pointed in the same direction. They found a modest but statistically significant reduction in dementia risk among those who had received any non-flu vaccine, with the shingles vaccine showing a particularly strong association. So what's the common thread? Here, the leading theory revolves around the concept of trained immunity. The idea is that when you get a vaccine like the one for shingles, it doesn't just train your immune system to fight that one specific virus. It gives your entire innate immune system a general boost, making it more alert and effective at clearing out other threats. This includes things like amyloid plaques and tau tangles, which are the hallmark proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. Essentially, the vaccine might be revving up your body's natural cleanup crew in the brain, helping to sweep away the garbage before it can build up and cause problems. Another fascinating piece of the puzzle is the direct link between the varicella-zoster virus, itself the one that causes chickenpox and shingles, and the brain. Some research suggests that when this virus reactivates in the body as shingles, it can cause inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a known risk factor for many diseases, including dementia. So, by preventing a shingles outbreak, the vaccine is also preventing that associated burst of inflammation, which could otherwise contribute to cognitive decline down the road. It's like stopping a small fire from starting, rather than trying to put out a bigger one later. It's also important to note that these studies are observational. This means they show a strong correlation, a link, but they don't definitively prove that the vaccine asterisk causes asterisk the reduction in dementia risk. It's possible that people who choose to get vaccinated are just generally more health conscious. Maybe they also eat better, exercise more, and see their doctor regularly, all things that are independently linked to a lower risk of dementia. Researchers call this the healthy user effect. That's something they work very hard to account for in their analyses. They use statistical methods to adjust for factors like age, sex, other health conditions, and socioeconomic status to isolate the effect of the vaccine as much as possible. And even after all those adjustments, the link remains. So while we don't have a final, conclusive answer just yet, the evidence is building a very strong case. We have multiple large-scale studies from different countries, all pointing to this protective association, the biological mechanisms like trained immunity and reduced inflammation. Make perfect sense from a scientific standpoint. It is an incredibly exciting area of research that could open up entirely new ways of thinking about dementia prevention. And that brings us to our next section, where we'll explore which specific vaccine we're talking about and who should be getting it. Stick around. So we've talked about what the studies are showing, but let's get into the really fascinating part, the how. How exactly could a vaccine, something we usually associate with fighting off germs like the flu or pneumonia, possibly protect our brains and lower the risk of dementia? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the science behind it is starting to paint a really interesting picture. One of the leading theories is all about something called systemic inflammation. Think of it like this. When your body gets an infection, say from the flu, your immune system goes into high gear. It releases a flood of inflammatory cells to fight off the invaders. This is great for killing the virus, but it creates a lot of inflammation throughout your entire body, including your brain. Now imagine this happening year after year, this chronic. Low-grade inflammation can be really damaging to delicate brain cells and the connections between them. It's like a slow, simmering fire that gradually wears down the brain's defenses. By getting vaccinated, you either avoid the infection altogether or you get a much milder case. This means less severe, less frequent inflammatory episodes. You're essentially preventing those inflammatory fires from ever starting, giving your brain a much better chance to stay healthy and resilient over the long term. Another exciting idea is a concept called immune training or trained immunity. This one is a bit more complex, but super cool. The idea is that vaccines don't just teach your immune system to recognize one specific virus. They might actually give your entire immune system a broader upgrade. It is like sending your immune cells to a boot camp where they learn to be more efficient and effective at their jobs. After vaccination, these trained immune cells become better at clearing out all sorts of unwanted junk from your body. And what's one of the biggest culprits in Alzheimer's disease? The buildup of toxic proteins in the brain, like amyloid plaques and tau tangles. So the theory is that a trained, more efficient immune system might be better at housekeeping in the brain, clearing away these harmful proteins before they can accumulate and cause damage. It's not just about fighting external invaders. It's about improving the brain's own internal cleanup crew. Then there's the more direct link: preventing infections that directly harm the brain. We know that certain viruses and bacteria can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause direct damage. Severe pneumonia, for example, can lead to a lack of oxygen in the brain, which can kill brain cells. Some viruses are even suspected of triggering the chain reaction that leads to Alzheimer's. So by getting vaccinated against things like pneumonia, shingles, or the flu, you're building a fortress around your brain. You're stopping these known troublemakers at the gate, preventing them from ever getting a chance to wreak havoc on your neural pathways. It's a very straightforward but powerful protective mechanism. And finally, let's consider the overall health aspect. People who regularly get vaccinated often have better access to health care and are generally more proactive about their health. They see their doctor, get checkups, and manage other chronic conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes, which are themselves major risk factors for dementia. So vaccination might be part of a larger pattern of healthy behaviors that all work together to protect the brain. It's not just the vaccine itself, but the entire lifestyle of prevention that it represents. All these theories are still being explored, but together they create a compelling case for how these shots could be giving our brains a powerful protective edge. In our next section, we'll talk about which specific vaccines seem to have the strongest effect. Stay tuned. All right, let's get into the most important part of this entire discussion, the reality check. We've talked about some exciting studies and the potential link between the shingles vaccine and a lower risk of dementia. But before anyone rushes out thinking this is a magic bullet, we need to be crystal clear about a few things. First, and this is crucial, the studies we've looked at show a correlation, not causation. Let me say that again: correlation, not causation. This means that while there is a connection between getting the shingles vaccine and having a lower dementia risk in the observed groups, it doesn't prove that the vaccine itself is the direct cause of that protection. It's a classic chicken or egg scenario in science. So what else could be going on? Well, researchers have a few interesting ideas. One leading theory is something called the healthy user effect. Think about it. Who is more likely to proactively get a shingles vaccine? It's often people who are already more engaged with their health. They might exercise regularly, eat a balanced diet, keep up with all their doctor's appointments, and manage other health conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes. All of these behaviors are independently linked to a lower risk of dementia. So it's possible that the vaccine is simply a marker for a healthier lifestyle. And it's that overall lifestyle that's providing the brain protective benefits, not the vaccine on its own. Another possibility is that people who choose to get vaccinated might have better access to health. Or in general, this means they are more likely to have their cognitive health monitored and receive early interventions for any issues that arise. Again, this would be an indirect benefit, not a direct effect of the vaccine's biological mechanism. We also have to consider the biological side, as we touched on earlier. One theory is that the shingles virus itself, herpes zoster, could contribute to neuroinflammation or even directly damage brain cells. increasing dementia risk. If that's the case, then preventing a shingles outbreak would naturally remove that specific risk factor. But this is still just a theory. The exact way viruses impact long-term brain health is a massive area of ongoing research. And we're just scratching the surface. And let's not forget, dementia is incredibly complex. It's not caused by just one thing. It's a mix of genetics, lifestyle, environmental factors, and just plain bad luck sometimes. Attributing a reduction in risk to a single vaccine is a huge oversimplification. For example, the APOE4 gene is a well-known genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's. The vaccine isn't going to. Change your genes. So the big takeaway from this section is to manage our expectations. The research is promising. It's a fantastic starting point for more investigation. Scientists are now calling for randomized controlled trials, which are the gold standard in medical research. In these trials, they would randomly assign one group of people to get the shingles vaccine, and another to get a placebo, and then follow them for many years to see if there's a real difference in dementia rates. That's the only way to truly prove causation. Until we have that kind of evidence, we should view this shingles vaccine for what it is officially approved for, a highly effective way to prevent the painful and sometimes debilitating condition of shingles. That, in itself, is a huge benefit, especially for older adults. Reducing your dementia risk might be a potential, incredible bonus, but it's not the proven primary reason to get the shot right now. It's an exciting clue, a puzzle piece, but not the whole picture. Stay with me, because next up, we're going to dive into what the experts are actually recommending based on the evidence we have today, and what this all means for you. Thanks for watching. So we've talked a lot about that surprising link between certain vaccines and a lower risk of dementia. It's fascinating stuff, right? But it also brings up a much bigger question. What are the absolute best, scientifically backed ways to protect our brains as we get older? Let's dive into the gold standard of brain health, the things that truly move the needle. First up, and this won't surprise you, is physical exercise. Think of it as fertilizer for your brain. When you move your body, whether it's a brisk walk, a swim, or dancing in your living room, you're not just strengthening your muscles, you're increasing blood flow to your brain, which delivers essential oxygen and nutrients. Exercise also stimulates the release of growth factors, which are like little construction workers that help maintain and even grow new brain cells and connections. The evidence is overwhelming. Regular physical activity is one of the most powerful tools we have to fight cognitive decline. It helps reduce inflammation and can even lower the risk of other conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes, which are themselves major risk factors for dementia. Next, let's talk about what's on your plate. Your brain is a hungry organ, and it craves the right kind of fuel. Diets rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats are consistently linked to better brain health. Think of the Mediterranean diet or the Mind diet. These aren't about restriction. They're about abundance. They're packed with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds that protect brain cells from damage. Things like leafy greens, berries, nuts, and fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon are superstars for your brain. It's not about finding one single superfood, but about creating a consistent pattern of healthy eating. What you eat directly impacts your brain structure and function. Now let's move on to something you do every night. Or at least you should be: sleep. Sleep is not a luxury. It's a biological necessity for your brain. While you're sleeping, your brain is hard at work. It's like a cleaning crew comes in. A system called the glymphatic system becomes more active, flushing out toxins and waste products that build up during the day, including beta amyloid, the protein famously associated with Alzheimer's disease. Sleep is also when your brain consolidates memories, moving them from short-term to long-term storage. So when you skimp on sleep, you're not just tired the next day. You're actively preventing your brain from performing its essential maintenance and memory filing tasks. Prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is a non-negotiable for long-term brain health. And what about keeping your mind active? This is crucial. Lifelong learning and staying mentally engaged are like a workout for your brain. This doesn't mean you have to go back to school or do complex puzzles every day, although you can. It can be as simple as learning a new hobby, reading a challenging book, playing an instrument, or even just having deep, engaging conversations with friends. The key is to challenge your brain with novelty and complexity. When you learn something new, you're forging new neural pathways, making your brain more resilient and adaptable. Think of it as building a cognitive reserve. The more connections you have, the more routes your brain can take to bypass any damage that might occur finally. Let's not forget the power of social connection. We are fundamentally social creatures, and our brains thrive on interaction. Maintaining strong social ties and a sense of community is incredibly protective. Engaging with others stimulates our minds, reduces stress, and fights off feelings of loneliness and depression, which are themselves risk factors for cognitive decline. Whether it's spending time with family, volunteering, or joining a club, these connections provide emotional support and mental stimulation. They give us a sense of purpose and belonging, which is profoundly good for our overall well-being and, you guessed it, our brain health. So, while the vaccine connection is an exciting piece of the puzzle, the foundation of a healthy brain is built on these pillars. Move your body, fuel it with good food, prioritize sleep, challenge your mind, and stay connected to others. These are the strategies with the most robust evidence behind them. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights into living a healthier life. Have you ever thought a simple shot could help protect your brain? We've spent the last few videos diving deep into the fascinating link between certain vaccines and a lower risk of dementia. We've covered the science, the statistics, and the ongoing research. Now, for our final segment, let's talk about the most important part. Who really needs to be paying attention to this? First and foremost, if you are 65 or older, this information is directly for you. This is the age group where the risk for dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, starts to climb significantly. The studies we've discussed have shown the most pronounced protective effects in this demographic. So, if you're in this age bracket, discussing your vaccination status with your doctor should be a top priority. It's not just about avoiding the flu or pneumonia. It could be a key strategy for long-term brain health. Next up, let's talk about individuals with a family history of dementia. If you have a parent or sibling who developed Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, your own risk is unfortunately elevated. While genetics play a role we can't change, we can be proactive about the risk factors we can control. This makes you a prime candidate to explore every possible preventive measure. Think of it as adding another layer of defense for your cognitive future. Being vigilant about vaccinations is a simple, accessible step you can take. Another crucial group to consider are those with pre-existing conditions that are known risk factors for dementia. This includes people with cardiovascular issues like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or a history of heart disease. It also includes individuals with type 2 diabetes. We know that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. These conditions can affect blood flow and inflammation throughout the body, including the brain. The vaccines we've talked about, like the flu and pneumonia shots, can help reduce the overall inflammatory load on your system, which might be one of the reasons they show a protective effect against dementia if you're already managing one of these conditions. This is another compelling reason to stay up to date on your immunizations. And finally, this message is for everyone who wants to be proactive about their health as they age, even if you're in your 40s or 50s. It is never too early to start building healthy habits that will protect your brain down the road. The choices you make today lay the foundation for your cognitive health in the decades, too. Come, understanding the potential benefits of routine vaccinations is part of building a comprehensive, long-term wellness plan. So, to wrap up our entire series, we've explored the surprising connection between vaccines for diseases like tetanus, shingles, and the flu, and a reduced risk of developing dementia. While this isn't a magic bullet, the evidence strongly suggests it's a significant piece of the puzzle. It's a low-risk, high-reward intervention that's already recommended for general health. This research empowers us to take another active step in safeguarding our minds. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. It's been incredible exploring this topic with you. If you found this series helpful, Please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel for more content on health and science. Stay curious, stay healthy. And I'll see you in the next video.